Imagine a horse so broken by trauma that for 8 months, every single person who approached him was met with teeth and hooves. Trainers, veterinarians, experienced handlers. It didn't matter. This 200-pound thoroughbred named Sampson had one message for the human world: stay away. His stall became a danger zone. His future looked like a death sentence. But then something happened that would challenge everything experts thought they knew about healing, communication, and connection. A 6-year-old child with autism named Emma walked into that stall, sat down on the ground without saying a word, and the most violent horse at Redemption Ridge Sanctuary simply stopped. What happened in those first 10 minutes of silence would transform both their lives and prove that sometimes the most profound healing doesn't come from expertise or words. It comes from two souls who understand what it means to be misunderstood. Hey, incredible community, before we dive into this powerful journey, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far our Animal Hero Moments family reaches. And if stories about unexpected connections and the healing power of silence move you, hit that like button and subscribe. Every single subscriber helps us share these moments that prove understanding transcends words, species, and everything we think we know about communication. Stay until the end. This one will change how you see both animals and autism. It was September 2018 at Redemption Ridge Equine Sanctuary in rural Montana, a 200-acre facility dedicated to rescuing horses from abuse, neglect, and slaughter auctions. The sanctuary had handled difficult cases before. Horses traumatized by years of harsh training, neglected animals, barely surviving starvation, even former racehorses psychologically broken by the brutal demands of the track. But Sampson, a 7-year-old chestnut thoroughbred gelding seized from a property where authorities documented severe abuse, was different. He wasn't just fearful or defensive. He was actively, consistently, dangerously violent toward every human who came near. Sanctuary Director Catherine Walsh had 30 years of experience rehabilitating traumatized horses, but Sampson tested every technique she knew. Food rewards, he'd ignore them to attack. Gentle approach and retreat methods. He'd charge the moment anyone entered his space. Even passive observation from outside his stall triggered aggressive posturing, ears pinned flat, teeth bared, violent kicks against the walls that left dents in the reinforced wood. Veterinary examination required full sedation, and even then, the moment the drugs wore off, the aggression returned. For 8 months, the pattern never varied. Sampson remained in isolated quarantine, his stall marked with warning signs, his care limited to food and water delivered remotely through specially designed chutes. The sanctuary's insurance company was pressuring Catherine to make a decision everyone dreaded: humane euthanasia for an animal deemed too dangerous to rehabilitate and impossible to place. But Catherine believed every horse deserved a chance, and she kept searching for the key that might unlock whatever trauma had sealed Sampson inside a prison of rage and fear. Horses are prey animals with extraordinarily sensitive nervous systems, evolved over millions of years to detect danger and respond with flight or fight reflexes. When severely traumatized, especially through prolonged abuse involving confinement, starvation, or physical violence, horses can develop what equine behaviorists call learned aggression, a defensive adaptation where attack becomes the primary response to perceived threat. Unlike predators who might use aggression instrumentally, horses use it desperately, a last resort when flight is impossible and freeze has failed. Sampson's constant violence wasn't cruelty, it was terror expressed through the only defense he had left. The documented abuse from his previous situation painted a horrifying picture. Sampson had been confined to a small stall for approximately 3 years, fed irregularly, and subjected to harsh braking methods involving physical punishment and equipment that caused pain. When authorities finally intervened after neighbors reported the conditions, Sampson weighed nearly 300 pounds, less than healthy for his size. bore scars from improperly fitted tack, and showed signs of repetitive confinement stress behaviors like weaving and cribbing. The physical wounds healed with proper nutrition and veterinary care. The psychological wounds ran far deeper. Catherine tried everything. She consulted with equine trauma specialists from Colorado State University's veterinary behavior program. She implemented protocols based on the latest research in fear-based aggression and PTSD in horses. She brought in an animal communicator who worked with energy healing, willing to try even unconventional approaches. Nothing worked. Sampson's world had contracted to a single equation: humans equal pain, therefore attack humans before they attack you. The sanctuary became Emma's family's refuge during a different kind of struggle. Emma's parents, Michael and Rachel Torres, had been navigating the challenges of raising a non-verbal autistic daughter in a world that often didn't understand or accommodate her needs. Emma experienced the world with intense sensory sensitivity. Loud noises overwhelmed her, unexpected touch caused distress, and verbal communication felt like an impossible barrier between her thoughts and expression. Traditional therapies had limited success, but her parents noticed something remarkable. Around animals, especially horses, Emma became calm, focused, present in ways that verbal therapy sessions never achieved. When Michael, a veterinarian who occasionally volunteered at Redemption Ridge, mentioned the sanctuary to Rachel, they decided to explore equine therapy options for Emma. Catherine was initially hesitant. Her facility wasn't set up as a formal therapy center, and Emma's needs required specialized protocols. But something about Emma's quiet presence intrigued her, and she agreed to let the family visit, carefully supervising interactions with the sanctuary's gentlest, most therapy-appropriate horses in the main barn, far from the quarantine area where Sampson remained isolated. Emma's first visits to Redemption Ridge in May 2019 revealed something Catherine had seen occasionally but never fully understood. Horses responded to Emma differently than they did to most people. The girl would approach a horse's stall and simply stand there, not reaching out, not speaking, not demanding interaction, just being present. And the horses, sensing something in her stillness, would approach on their own terms, drawn to her calm energy. Emma's parents explained that she had what therapists called sensory processing differences. She experienced the world through texture, energy, and presence, rather than primarily through words and conventional social cues. Catherine began observing Emma's interactions more carefully, consulting with her team of volunteers and trainers. What they noticed was fascinating. Emma didn't approach horses with the goal-oriented energy most humans brought. She didn't want to pet them, ride them, or accomplish anything with them. She simply wanted to be near them, to exist in shared space without agenda. And horses, who are extraordinarily attuned to intention and energy, responded to this non-demanding presence with curiosity and trust. By early June, Emma had become a regular visitor, spending hours sitting near horse stalls, sometimes touching them, more often just being close. Her parents reported improvements at home: better sleep, reduced anxiety episodes, increased willingness to attempt new activities. Catherine found herself wondering about something almost absurd. Could Emma's unique way of being in the world offer insights into reaching horses who couldn't be reached through traditional training methods? The thought crystallized into possibility on June 18th, when Emma, exploring the sanctuary grounds while her father consulted with Catherine about a medical case, wandered toward the quarantine barn. Staff member Jennifer Reeves spotted her first, moving quickly to intercept before Emma could get near Sampson's stall. But she was seconds too late. Emma had already stopped in front of Sampson's door, standing perhaps 3 feet back, her characteristic stillness settling over her as she gazed at the massive chestnut horse inside. What happened next would be captured on the barn's security camera and later analyzed by equine behaviorists, autism researchers, and animal communication specialists. Sampson, who typically charged toward his stall door the moment any human appeared, displaying aggressive threats to drive them away, didn't move. He stood at the back of his stall, ears forward, not pinned in aggression, but pricked in attention, and stared at Emma. For 30 seconds, girl and horse simply looked at each other across the space separating them. Jennifer, terrified of what might happen if Sampson suddenly lunged, called softly for Emma to step back. But Emma, in the way of autistic children who become absorbed in moments of deep focus, didn't respond to verbal direction. She wasn't ignoring Jennifer, she simply couldn't process the words while her entire attention was absorbed by the horse in front of her. And then Emma did something that made Jennifer's heart stop. She sat down right there on the concrete floor, crossed her legs, and continued watching Sampson with quiet, unwavering attention. Catherine, alerted by Jennifer's urgent radio call, arrived to find a scene that violated every safety protocol, but also exhibited something she'd never witnessed in 8 months of Sampson's residence. The horse had moved forward in his stall, approaching the door where Emma sat on the other side, and had lowered his head to her level. No pinned ears, no bared teeth, no aggressive posturing, just curiosity. The massive Thoroughbred was watching this small human who sat silently at his door, and something in his expression had softened. For 5 minutes, Catherine held her position 20 feet back, afraid to intervene and break whatever strange spell had settled over the space. Emma didn't try to touch Sampson. She didn't speak to him, didn't offer food, didn't make any attempt at interaction. She simply sat, breathing, existing in her calm, grounded way. And Sampson, the horse who attacked everyone, did nothing. His breathing slowed, his body relaxed incrementally, and in those 5 minutes, Catherine's mind began racing through possibilities that seemed impossible but were unfolding right in front of her. When Michael arrived, responding to Catherine's call, he found his daughter sitting peacefully in front of the most dangerous horse on the property, and that horse standing calmly on the other side of the stall door. Michael's first instinct was protective panic, but Catherine stopped him with a hand on his arm. "Don't move," she whispered. "Don't break this. Something is happening here that I don't understand, but I think we need to let it happen." 10 minutes after Emma first sat down, she stood up with the same quiet deliberation with which she'd sat, looked at Sampson one more time, and walked away to rejoin her father. The horse watched her go, tracking her movement with his eyes, and when she disappeared from his line of sight, he returned to the back of his stall, not with his usual aggressive energy, but with something that looked almost like disappointment. Catherine stared at the empty space where Emma had been sitting, then at Sampson, then at Michael, and said words that would change everything. "I have an idea. It's probably crazy, but I think your daughter might be able to reach this horse when no one else can." The proposal Catherine presented to Michael and Rachel that evening was unprecedented, and by conventional safety standards, insane. She wanted to allow Emma supervised sessions with Sampson, not training sessions, not therapy sessions, just presence. Emma would sit outside Sampson's stall, or potentially inside if he continued showing non-aggressive behavior, and simply be with him in the way she'd spontaneously done that afternoon. No goals, no agenda, no pressure for outcomes. Just a child and a traumatized horse sharing space in silence. Rachel's first response was absolute refusal. Sampson had hospitalized a trainer who'd gotten too close. He'd kicked through reinforced walls. He was scheduled for humane euthanasia in 2 weeks because the sanctuary couldn't ethically keep such a dangerous animal indefinitely. How could they even consider putting Emma, their precious daughter, who couldn't verbally communicate if something scared her, in proximity to that kind of threat? But Michael, who had seen the security footage Catherine showed them, was thinking differently. He'd watched his daughter calm horses that experienced handlers said were difficult. He'd seen how animals responded to Emma's energy with trust they didn't show others. and he'd witnessed something in those 10 minutes that looked less like a child encountering a dangerous animal and more like two beings recognizing something in each other. A shared experience of being on the outside, of communicating differently, of living in a world that didn't understand the language they spoke. The compromise they reached involved elaborate safety protocols. Emma would never be fully enclosed with Sampson. She would sit outside his stall with Catherine and Michael present at all times. At the first sign of aggressive behavior, the session would end immediately. They would start with just 5 minutes, building slowly if Sampson remained calm. And most importantly, Emma would have complete autonomy. If she showed any sign of fear or discomfort, if she wanted to leave, the experiment would stop with no pressure to continue. The first official session was scheduled for June 20th, 2 days after Emma's spontaneous encounter. Catherine, Michael, Rachel, and Dr. Sarah Martinez, a clinical psychologist specializing in autism who worked with Emma's family, all gathered in the quarantine barn, creating what Dr. Martinez would later describe as probably the most overqualified observation team in equine behavior history. Emma, unaware of the stakes or the anxiety surrounding the adults, simply walked to Sampson's stall and sat down in the same spot she'd chosen before. Sampson's response was identical to the previous encounter: forward ears, lowered head, calm body language that stood in stark contrast to 8 months of consistent aggression. Emma sat for the agreed-upon 5 minutes, then stood and left without incident. Day 2, the same pattern. Day 3, something new. Sampson lowered himself to lie down in his stall while Emma sat outside, his massive body settling onto the bedding, his eyes remaining on the small human who asked nothing of him except to let her be near. By day 5, Catherine made a decision that required insurance waivers, liability releases, and a leap of faith that went against every professional instinct. She would allow Emma inside the stall. The safety protocols were extensive. The stall door would remain open, 3 adults would be positioned for immediate intervention, and Michael, as a veterinarian, would have emergency sedation ready. Emma's session would be limited to 3 minutes, and Emma herself was given a simple visual card system her parents used. Green card meant she felt safe. Red card meant she wanted to stop. Emma entered Sampson's stall holding the green card, sat down in the corner farthest from the horse, and began the quiet breathing exercises her occupational therapist had taught her for self-regulation. Sampson, who for 8 months had attacked anyone who entered his space, remained lying down. He watched Emma with what Catherine would later describe as unmistakable interest, but made no move toward her, aggressive or otherwise. 3 minutes passed. Then 5, then 10. Emma's breathing had synchronized with Sampson's, a phenomenon Dr. Martinez was documenting with her observation notes. The horse's respiratory rate, typically elevated in the presence of humans, had dropped to what equine veterinary charts classified as relaxed resting state. Emma's own biometric data, heart rate and skin temperature monitored through a watch device her parents used to track her anxiety levels, showed similar relaxation markers. At the 15-minute mark, Sampson did something that made every adult in the observation area hold their breath. He stood up slowly and began walking toward Emma. Catherine's hand moved to the stall door, ready to intervene. Michael had the sedation prepared. But as Sampson approached to within 3 feet of Emma, he stopped, lowered his massive head until his nose was level with Emma's face, and exhaled softly, what equine behaviorists call a greeting breath, a sign of non-threatening intention and curiosity. Emma, demonstrating the deep calm that characterized her interactions with animals, slowly raised one hand and placed it gently on Sampson's nose. The contact lasted perhaps 3 seconds before she withdrew her hand, returning it to her lap. Sampson remained still, accepting the touch without flinching or pulling away, the first time since arriving at the sanctuary that he'd allowed voluntary human contact without sedation. Catherine felt tears streaming down her face as she documented the moment, understanding she was witnessing something that defied conventional rehabilitation protocols and revealed something profound about trust, trauma, and the kind of healing that happens beyond words. The sessions continued daily throughout late June and into July. The pattern evolved organically. Emma would enter Sampson's stall, sit in her chosen corner, and practice her breathing. Sampson would approach, lower his head to her level, and they would simply exist together in shared silence. Sometimes Emma would touch him briefly, a hand on his nose, his neck, his shoulder. Sometimes she would remain completely still. The content of the sessions mattered less than the quality of presence both brought to them. Dr. Martinez began conducting formal observations, documenting the interaction patterns, and consulting with colleagues who studied autism, animal-assisted interventions, and trauma recovery. What emerged from the analysis was fascinating. Emma and Sampson were engaging in what's called parallel regulation. Their nervous systems were synchronizing, each finding calm in the other's non-demanding presence. For Emma, who struggled with sensory overwhelm in typical social situations, Sampson's quiet acceptance offered safety. For Sampson, whose trauma had made every human interaction a threat, Emma's complete lack of agenda and her comfort with silence created space where trust could tentatively emerge. Catherine began documenting behavioral changes in Sampson beyond his sessions with Emma. His aggression toward other humans decreased gradually. He no longer charged his stall door when staff approached, though he remained wary and defensive. His food consumption improved, indicating reduced stress. His sleep patterns normalized. Where previously he'd shown signs of hypervigilance even during rest periods, he now achieved deeper sleep states. The changes weren't dramatic or sudden, but they were consistent and measurable. By August, Emma's sessions with Sampson had extended to 30 to 45 minutes, during which she would sometimes bring quiet activities, drawing in a sketchbook, playing with tactile toys, engaging in the self-directed occupational activities that helped her process sensory input. Sampson would often lie down during these longer sessions, positioning himself near but not touching Emma, and simply rest in her presence. To outside observers, it looked unremarkable, a child and a horse sharing space. To those who understood Sampson's history, it was miraculous. The sanctuary team began carefully introducing other humans into Sampson's care routine, using Emma's presence as an anchor. Catherine would enter the stall while Emma was present, moving slowly, speaking softly, allowing Sampson to acclimate to her proximity while the reassuring presence of the child kept his stress levels manageable. The approach worked. Sampson's tolerance for human proximity expanded incrementally, though he remained selective. Loud, sudden, or aggressive energy still triggered defensive responses. Emma's parents reported changes in their daughter as well. Her anxiety episodes at home decreased in frequency and intensity. Her willingness to attempt new experiences increased. Most remarkably, she began showing interest in augmentative communication tools, picture cards and tablet-based communication apps that she'd previously resisted, as if her connection with Sampson had opened something in her relationship to expression and connection more broadly. Dr. Martinez published a case study in the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disorders in October 2019, titled Interspecies Trauma-Informed Connection, a case study of mutual regulation between a child with autism and a traumatized horse. The paper explored how Emma's neurodivergent way of being in the world, her comfort with silence, her non-demanding presence, her communication through energy and touch rather than words, had created conditions where Sampson's traumatized nervous system could begin to heal. The research suggested that autistic individuals might offer unique strengths in animal-assisted interventions, particularly with traumatized animals who couldn't be reached through conventional training methods. The sanctuary began receiving inquiries from autism organizations, equine therapy programs, and animal behaviorists interested in the Emma Sampson model. Catherine was cautious about generalizing from a single case. Every horse is different, every autistic child is different, and what worked for Emma and Sampson might not transfer universally. But she couldn't deny the evidence. Sometimes the most effective healing doesn't come from expertise or technique. Sometimes it comes from two beings who've both experienced what it means to be different, to communicate in ways the world doesn't always understand, finding in each other a language that transcends words. By November 2019, Sampson had progressed to the point where Catherine felt comfortable moving him from quarantine to the main barn, a transition that would have been unimaginable 8 months earlier. Emma was present for the move, walking beside Sampson's lead rope as Catherine guided him to his new stall. The horse, who had once attacked anyone who tried to lead him, walked calmly with the small human beside him, occasionally lowering his head to her level as if checking that she was still there. The Emma Sampson connection catalyzed a broader transformation at Redemption Ridge Sanctuary. Catherine implemented new protocols for handling traumatized horses, incorporating principles of silence, patience, and non-demanding presence that Emma had demonstrated. Staff training began, including modules on nervous system regulation, trauma-informed care, and recognizing that sometimes the most powerful intervention is simply being present without agenda. The changes improved outcomes across the sanctuary's population, with several previously difficult horses showing reduced stress and increased trust. Local media coverage of Emma and Sampson's story in January 2020 led to unexpected attention from the autism community. Parents of autistic children began contacting the sanctuary, asking if similar programs existed for their kids. Catherine partnered with Dr. Martinez to develop Silent Sessions, a pilot program where autistic children could spend time with horses in non-demanding, unstructured ways, focusing on mutual presence rather than riding or traditional therapy goals. The program's success rate in reducing anxiety and improving emotional regulation exceeded conventional equine therapy outcomes. The academic interest continued expanding. Researchers from Temple University's Department of Psychology visited Redemption Ridge to study the Emma Sampson interaction directly, using sophisticated biometric monitoring to measure heart rate variability, cortisol levels, and other stress markers in both the child and the horse. Their findings, published in 2021, showed remarkable synchronization. During sessions together, Emma and Sampson's physiological stress markers dropped significantly, while markers associated with social bonding and calm engagement increased. The data suggested that their connection facilitated co-regulation, each helping the other achieve nervous system states neither could easily access alone. Emma's communication development accelerated in ways her parents and therapists hadn't anticipated. By spring 2020, she was using a tablet-based communication device regularly, typing out thoughts and observations she'd previously kept internal. One of her first extended messages, typed laboriously over several minutes, read, "Sampson understands quiet. People talk too much. Sampson knows I'm not broken. D." The statement pierced through clinical language about autism and trauma, revealing something essential. Both Emma and Sampson had been treated by the world as problems to fix, when what they actually needed was acceptance of their different ways of being. The COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 disrupted many aspects of life, but Emma's sessions with Sampson continued under careful safety protocols. In fact, during the isolation and uncertainty that characterized those months, the sanctuary became even more crucial for Emma's well-being. Her parents reported that Sampson provided stability and connection when her typical support systems were disrupted. The horse, meanwhile, seemed to depend on Emma's visits with equal intensity. His stress behaviors would increase if several days passed without seeing her, and he would visibly relax when she appeared. Sampson's rehabilitation reached a milestone in June 2020 when Catherine determined he was ready for adoption consideration, something that had seemed impossible 2 years earlier. But the adoption process revealed an unexpected complication. Sampson had become selectively social. He tolerated most humans now and could be handled safely by experienced staff, but he showed clear preference for Emma. Potential adopters who visited found a calm, manageable horse. But he didn't light up, didn't show the softness and engagement he demonstrated with the small autistic girl who had first sat in silence outside his stall. Catherine made an unconventional decision. Sampson wouldn't be adopted out. He would remain at Redemption Ridge as a permanent sanctuary resident and specifically as Emma's horse. The Torres family couldn't house a horse at their suburban property, but they could continue regular visits to the sanctuary, and the arrangement would ensure Sampson's care while preserving the bond that had saved his life. The decision was financially challenging for the sanctuary, but Catherine felt certain obligations transcended budget considerations. The relationship continued evolving. By 2021, Emma was participating in basic groundwork activities with Sampson, leading him, asking him to move in specific directions, engaging in the kind of cooperative activities that build trust and communication in horse-human relationships. She accomplished this not through voice commands, which remained difficult for her, but through pressure and release cues, body language, and the intuitive reading of Sampson's energy that came naturally to her. Trainers observed that Emma's methods, though unconventional, achieved results that matched or exceeded traditional training approaches. Dr. Martinez's ongoing research expanded into a broader study comparing outcomes for autistic children in traditional equine therapy versus the silent sessions model pioneered at Redemption Ridge. Preliminary data showed that children who struggled most with verbal communication and social demands showed significantly better outcomes in the unstructured, presence-based approach. The research suggested that conventional therapy models, by imposing structure and goals, might inadvertently create stress that counteracted therapeutic benefits for some neurodivergent children. The sanctuary began training staff and volunteers in what they termed Emma's approach, a framework emphasizing non-verbal communication, respect for autonomy, comfort with silence, and recognition that healing often happens in the spaces between action rather than through directed intervention. The principles proved applicable beyond work with autistic children, improving outcomes with traumatized animals, veterans with PTSD, and anyone whose experience of the world didn't fit conventional therapeutic frameworks. In September 2022, Redemption Ridge hosted a symposium titled Beyond Words, Silence, Presence, and Interspecies Healing, bringing together autism researchers, equine behaviorists, trauma specialists, and animal communication experts. Emma, now 9 years old and increasingly comfortable using her communication device, participated in a presentation about her relationship with Sampson. Using pre-typed messages and some live typing, she explained, "Sampson was scared. Everyone wanted to fix him with noise and plans. I just wanted to be near him. He taught me that quiet is not empty. Quiet is full of understanding." The symposium audience, professionals who'd spent careers studying communication, healing, and behavior, sat in silence after Emma's presentation, absorbing the profound simplicity of her insight. Sometimes the most sophisticated therapeutic interventions pale beside the wisdom of simply being present without agenda, of offering acceptance instead of correction, of recognizing that what looks like nothing can be everything. Sampson, now 11 years old, had become a different horse, not because his trauma disappeared, but because he'd learned that not all humans were threats, that some could be trusted, and that one particular small human understood him in ways that transcended species, language, and conventional communication. His stall in the main barn displayed a plaque: Sampson, healed by silence, saved by presence. Visitors to the sanctuary would often find Emma sitting in his stall, doing homework or drawing, while the massive chestnut horse stood nearby or rested with his head near her shoulder. The long-term data Catherine collected showed something remarkable. Sampson's stress hormones measured during sessions with Emma were comparable to those of horses in optimal living conditions with no trauma history. His heart rate variability, a marker of nervous system flexibility and resilience, had improved dramatically from his early months at the sanctuary. Behaviorally, he showed affection, playfulness, and curiosity that trauma specialists said wouldn't have been possible without the specific kind of healing Emma provided. Emma's own trajectory had been equally transformative. Her communication skills had expanded significantly, though she remained someone who processed the world differently than neurotypical peers, and always would. But she no longer seemed bothered by that difference. Sampson had taught her that different wasn't deficient, that her quiet, observant, intensely present way of being in the world wasn't something to overcome, but a gift that allowed connections others couldn't achieve. Her parents reported that her self-confidence and self-advocacy had grown exponentially. The broader impact of their story continued rippling outward. Equine therapy programs across North America began incorporating quiet time into protocols, recognizing that not every therapeutic interaction needed to be structured and goal-oriented. Autism organizations started advocating for animal-assisted interventions that honored autistic ways of being rather than trying to make autistic children conform to neurotypical communication patterns. And trauma-informed care frameworks began acknowledging that for some traumatized beings, whether human or animal, the most healing environment is one that demands nothing, expects nothing, just offers presence and acceptance. In 2023, Emma's family made the decision to purchase a small property closer to Redemption Ridge, recognizing that her bond with Sampson had become a central feature of her well-being and development. The move would allow daily visits to the sanctuary and deeper integration of equine interaction into Emma's life. Sampson would remain a sanctuary resident. The property couldn't house a horse, but the proximity meant Emma could maintain the consistency of contact that both she and the horse had come to depend on. Catherine, reflecting on the 5 years since Emma first sat outside Sampson's stall, told a visiting journalist, "We spend so much time in animal rescue trying to fix things, fix the behavior, fix the trauma, fix the problem. Emma didn't try to fix Sampson. She just sat with him in his brokenness and let him know that broken was okay, that he didn't have to be anything other than what he was. And in that acceptance, he found the safety to begin healing on his own terms." The statement captured something essential about both autism acceptance and trauma recovery. Sometimes, the most powerful intervention is abandoning the urge to intervene, to fix, to correct. Sometimes healing comes from someone sitting beside you in silence, communicating through presence that you're acceptable exactly as you are, that your different way of being in the world isn't a problem to solve, but a valid experience deserving of respect. Emma typed a message during one of her sessions with Sampson in late 2023 that Catherine printed and hung in the sanctuary's education center. "When I'm with Sampson, I don't have to pretend to be different. He doesn't need me to talk. He doesn't want me to be not autistic. He just likes that I understand quiet. I wish more people understood that quiet is a language too." The message resonated far beyond the equine therapy community, speaking to anyone who'd ever felt pressured to communicate in ways that didn't match their natural mode of expression, to perform normalcy, to translate themselves for a world that couldn't or wouldn't learn their language. Emma and Sampson had taught each other and everyone watching that understanding doesn't require words, that connection transcends conventional communication, and that sometimes the most profound conversations happen in complete silence. Today, Emma is 10 years old and Sampson is 12. Their bond remains as strong as the day a 6-year-old child sat outside a dangerous horse's stall and chose silence over intervention, presence over fixing, acceptance over fear. Emma visits the sanctuary almost daily now, spending time not just with Sampson, but with other horses who arrive traumatized and defensive, offering them what she offered him, the gift of being seen and accepted without demands or expectations. Several horses who couldn't be reached through conventional methods have shown the same response to Emma that Sampson first demonstrated: calm in the presence of someone who doesn't need them to be anything other than what they are. Sampson's transformation from a horse too violent to handle to a gentle presence who teaches children about acceptance has become legendary in equine rescue circles. But those who truly understand the story know it wasn't a one-way transformation. Emma healed Sampson, yes, but Sampson healed Emma too, teaching her that her autistic way of experiencing the world, her comfort with silence, her non-verbal communication, her intense, focused presence, wasn't a deficit to overcome, but a superpower that could reach beings no one else could reach. They saved each other by accepting each other completely, without conditions, without demands for change. Their story challenges everything we think we know about communication, healing, and what it means to help someone who's hurting. Sometimes the most powerful words are the ones we don't say. Sometimes the deepest understanding happens without explanation. And sometimes a traumatized horse and an autistic child can teach the world that different isn't broken. It's just a different language of love, spoken in silence and heard in the heart.